The security cameras showed him entering restricted areas after midnight. The CEO thought he was tracking a corporate spy, but when he followed the janitor to his secret destination, what he found wasn't stolen data. It was something that would make him question everything he thought he knew about success. The whispers in the executive corridors had been growing for weeks. Marcus Rivera, CEO of TechFlow Dynamics, couldn't ignore them any longer. Darius Freeman, the night janitor, a quiet single father who kept to himself, had been spotted accessing restricted areas after hours. Security footage showed him lingering at executive computers, entering the R&D wing when he thought no one was watching. With a major product launch approaching and competitors circling, Marcus couldn't risk a potential data breach. Tonight, he would follow him himself. What he discovered would not only change his opinion of Darius Freeman, it would transform his entire company. Watch the full story to understand why sometimes the quietest person makes the biggest impact and why a successful CEO decided to change his entire company because of one janitor. Darius Freeman, 42, moved with practiced efficiency through the gleaming hallways of TechFlow Dynamics. His weathered hands pushed a cleaning cart methodically, eyes downcast but observant. 4 years at TechFlow had taught him which executives left coffee rings, which developers worked latest, which security guards could be trusted. His worn blue uniform hung slightly loose on his frame. Once athletic, now lean from years of stretching every dollar to provide for Maya, his 9-year-old daughter. The cleaning staff adored Darius. He took the worst shifts without complaint, covered for sick colleagues, and somehow remembered everyone's birthdays with simple handwritten notes. Yet to management, he remained invisible, just another interchangeable service worker maintaining their pristine corporate environment. Marcus Rivera, 53, was everything Darius was not in the corporate hierarchy. A middle-aged man with a visible potbelly straining against his simple gray sweater, salt and pepper hair thinning at the crown, he had clawed his way from poverty to build TechFlow into a tech empire. As a divorced father to 12-year-old Alex, he understood sacrifice, but his ruthless efficiency and guarded suspicion had cost him his marriage. His ex-wife's words still echoed, "You care more about profit margins than people, Marcus." Appointed CEO 5 years ago, after a hostile takeover, he ruled TechFlow with intimidating competence and cold calculation. Neither he nor Darius realized how completely their worlds were about to collide. Marcus first noticed the pattern during a late-night review of security protocols. His head of security had mentioned finding computers moved slightly in the morning. When Marcus requested footage from the past month, a pattern emerged. Darius Freeman accessing areas beyond his clearance level, using computers after hours, sometimes placing what appeared to be storage devices into ports. "This is the 3rd time this week," Marcus murmured, squinting at the grainy footage of Darius entering the server room at 11:43 p.m., well after his shift supposedly ended. He emerged 40 minutes later, slipping something into his pocket. The next morning, Marcus called in his head of security, Trevor White. "What do we know about this janitor?" he asked, sliding Darius's employee file across his mahogany desk. Trevor shrugged. "Freeman, quiet guy, reliable, been here about 4 years, no complaints, that's it. The man with access to our entire building at night, and that's all we know?" Marcus's voice took on the edge that made executives wince. The file was thin. Darius Freeman, 42, previous employment, various, no college listed, single father, emergency contact, Mrs. Elaine Freeman, his mother, perfect attendance record, minimum wage plus standard benefits, nothing that explained why a janitor needed access to high-security areas or executive computers. That afternoon, Marcus noticed Darius polishing the glass walls of the main conference room while his executive team debated quarterly projections. His reflection watched the presentation momentarily before moving on. Had he been reading the confidential numbers displayed on the screen? "We have a major product launch in 3 weeks," Marcus reminded Trevor later. If any of that proprietary technology leaks, want me to terminate him? We could do it quietly. Marcus considered this. Something didn't add up. Darius had been at TechFlow for years. Why start industrial espionage now? And if he was stealing data, why be so obvious about it? Not yet. I want to know what he's doing first, who he's working for. That Friday, Marcus canceled his dinner plans and stayed late, changing into casual clothes he kept for rare gym visits. His gray sweater stretched tight across his expanding belly as he waited in his BMW, watching the employee parking lot. When Darius's shift ended at 10 p.m., Marcus followed him, maintaining distance as the battered Honda Civic pulled out. The car headed away from TechFlow's affluent tech corridor into progressively working-class neighborhoods. Marcus kept 3 cars between them, his heart racing. Was Darius meeting contacts? Selling TechFlow's intellectual property? After 20 minutes, Darius parked outside a rundown community center. The faded sign read, Riverside Community Resource Center. Darius retrieved a worn backpack from his trunk and walked inside. Marcus waited 5 minutes before following. Through a window, he could see Darius setting up laptops in what appeared to be a classroom. Children began filing in, mostly teenagers, some younger, from visibly diverse backgrounds. Darius greeted each by name, helping them settle at workstations. Confused, Marcus slipped inside. Lingering in the hallway, he could hear Darius's voice, warm and authoritative in a way he'd never heard at TechFlow. Remember what we discussed about machine learning algorithms? Today we're putting that into practice. Let's build something that actually helps people. Marcus peered around the doorframe. Darius stood before a whiteboard diagramming what appeared to be complex neural network architecture. The teenagers watched with rapt attention as his confident hands mapped connections between nodes, hands that hours earlier had been emptying trash bins at TechFlow. Mr. Freeman, a girl with bright eyes, raised her hand. Could we use this same approach for the community resource database? Excellent question, Alia. That's exactly the kind of application I had in mind. Marcus watched dumbfounded as Darius led the class through what he recognized as graduate-level computer science material. These children, many wearing second-hand clothes, typed furiously as Darius moved between stations, offering guidance with patient expertise. After class, Marcus followed Darius to another room where younger children waited. From his hiding spot, Marcus watched as Darius distributed refurbished laptops to wide-eyed recipients. "These are yours to keep," Darius explained to a boy no older than 10. "I've installed educational software and basic programming tools. The password is your birthday, just like we practiced." The boy hugged the laptop to his chest like treasure. When Darius finally emerged from the center 3 hours later, Marcus ducked behind a column. He watched him load empty containers back into his car, the same containers Marcus had seen him carrying out of TechFlow. Not stolen technology, but donated equipment. Marcus's phone vibrated with an urgent email from his assistant. Distracted, he failed to notice Darius approaching until he spoke. "Mr. Rivera, is everything all right?" Marcus froze, caught in his surveillance. Darius stood a respectful distance away, confusion evident on his tired face. "I was just, dropping off donations," Marcus improvised, gesturing vaguely toward the center. "The center always appreciates support." Darius's expression remained neutral, but his eyes, surprisingly sharp and intelligent, reflected disbelief. "Especially from someone like yourself. Someone like myself. Someone with influence." Darius hesitated. "If you're interested in the program, I'd be happy to show you around properly next time. We teach coding, digital literacy, resume building, basic skills that might help these kids break cycles of poverty. And you're qualified to teach these things? Because..." The question came out more accusatory than intended. Something shuddered in Darius's expression. "Good night, Mr. Rivera." He walked to his car without looking back, leaving Marcus with more questions than when he'd arrived. The next morning, Marcus instructed his assistant to compile everything available on Darius Freeman. By afternoon, he had his answer, one that made him sink into his leather chair in disbelief. Darius Freeman wasn't just qualified to teach programming. According to archived articles and patents, he had once been Dr. Darius Freeman, Senior Systems Architect at Quantum Dynamics. More startling, he had been part of the original development team for the AI framework that TechFlow had later acquired and built their flagship products upon. "This can't be right," Marcus muttered, scanning employment records. Darius had held a prestigious position at Quantum, then abruptly disappeared from the industry 6 years ago. Further digging revealed the reason: a wrongful termination lawsuit that Darius had filed against Quantum's then CEO, Richard Blackstone. The suit claimed Darius had been fired after blowing the whistle on AI bias testing that
Gloria's expression softened. "He volunteers all his time. The equipment comes from donations he somehow finds. Refurbished laptops, monitors, cables. We've seen children who couldn't turn on a computer now building websites for local businesses." Marcus followed Gloria to a small classroom where Darius sat with an elderly man, patiently showing him how to use video calling software. "He hasn't seen his son in Honduras for 3 years, Gloria explained quietly. Darius set up the connection and taught him how to use it. As they toured the facility, Marcus noticed the makeshift nature of everything: outdated equipment, furniture held together with duct tape, a leaking ceiling with strategically placed buckets. Yet somehow, the space radiated purpose and hope. "Our biggest challenge is space and equipment," Gloria confided. "We have a waiting list of 80 children. Darius does miracles with what he finds, but..." "What if someone wanted to help?" Marcus asked. Gloria's eyes widened. "That would be extraordinary." The next day, Marcus authorized an anonymous corporate donation to the Riverside Center, enough for building repairs, new equipment, and expanded programming space. When Darius arrived that evening to find new computers being installed, Gloria simply said they'd received an unexpected blessing. Over the following weeks, Marcus found himself inventing reasons to work late, observing Darius from a distance. Once aware of his background, he noticed the incongruities: how he methodically organized server cables that most janitors would jumble together, how his eyes lingered on code displayed on developer screens, the careful way he handled electronic equipment others might treat as trash. When developers left prototype tablets unattended, Darius didn't steal them, he adjusted their position to prevent overheating. When confidential documents were carelessly left out, he didn't photograph them, he placed them in secure drawers. The man Marcus had suspected of corporate espionage was actually providing unpaid security oversight. Marcus was still processing these revelations when crisis struck TechFlow. 3 days before their major product launch, the development team discovered a critical flaw in their flagship AI software, one that threatened to delay release by months and potentially cost millions in lost revenue and stock devaluation. The executive floor became a war zone of blame and panic. Marcus ordered an emergency meeting of all senior technical staff. Solutions proposed were either too time-consuming or risked introducing new problems. As the meeting descended into finger-pointing, Marcus noticed Darius quietly cleaning the adjacent conference room, his reflection in the glass showing an expression of concerned concentration. On impulse, Marcus stepped out of the meeting. "Darius, could I speak with you a moment?" Darius followed him to a quiet corner, maintaining respectful distance. "You were part of the original Quantum team that developed our core AI framework," Marcus stated without preamble. Darius's expression revealed nothing. "You've been researching me?" "Yes," Marcus met his gaze directly. "We have a critical system failure in the neural network optimization layer. Given your background, I wonder if you might have insights." For a long moment, Darius said nothing. Then, "May I see the error logs?" Marcus led him to his office, ignoring the startled looks from executives as the janitor followed him. He pulled up the diagnostic reports on his screen. Darius studied them intently, his posture shifting subtly as he leaned forward, a transformation visible as the janitor receded and the architect emerged. His fingers hovered over the keyboard questioningly. When Marcus nodded permission, he began typing with confident precision, navigating complex system architecture with evident familiarity. After 30 minutes of focused work, he straightened. The optimization layer isn't the primary problem. It's a training data bias in the underlying neural network, something we encountered in the original development. He pointed to specific sections of code. These workarounds are triggering cascading failures when the AI encounters demographic edge cases. "Can it be fixed before launch?" Marcus asked. Darius nodded slowly. "With the right approach, I'd need to see the full training dataset to be certain." Marcus made a decision. "Come with me." He led him back to the boardroom where arguing executives fell silent at their entrance. Without preamble, Marcus announced, "This is Darius Freeman. He was senior systems architect on the original AI framework and has identified our problem. For the next 72 hours, he'll be consulting with our development team." The TCO's incredulous "the janitor" hung in the stunned silence. Marcus fixed him with a level stare. "Dr. Freeman was implementing advanced machine learning architectures while you were still learning basic programming, Thomas. I suggest you listen carefully to what he has to say." 70 hours later, TechFlow launched its product on schedule. The critical flaw had been not only fixed, but improved upon, with Darius's solution creating unexpected efficiencies that enhanced overall performance while eliminating AI bias. The stock price jumped 15% by closing bell. In the aftermath, Marcus called an all-hands meeting. The entire company, from executives to maintenance staff, gathered in the main atrium. Darius stood uncertainly at the back, still in his janitor's uniform. "TechFlow faced potential disaster this week," Marcus began, his voice carrying across the packed space. "Our success today isn't just about avoiding failure. It's about recognizing value where we failed to see it." He gestured for Darius to join him on the platform. For a moment's hesitation, he complied, discomfort evident in his rigid posture. "Many of you know Darius as the man who keeps our facilities running. What you don't know is that Dr. Darius Freeman was once at the forefront of the technology that made TechFlow possible." Marcus proceeded to outline Darius's contributions to the industry and the ethical stand that cost him his career. "While we've been stepping over him to reach our offices, we've been ignorant of the expertise literally cleaning up after us." Marcus turned to face Darius directly. "On behalf of TechFlow, I offer both apology and opportunity. We would be honored to have you rejoin the technical leadership team effective immediately." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Darius's expression remained carefully neutral, though something flickered in his eyes. "That's very generous, Mr. Rivera, but I'm afraid I must decline." Marcus hadn't anticipated refusal. Before he could respond, Darius continued. 6 years ago, I made a choice between professional advancement and ethical responsibility. That choice cost me my career, but preserved something more valuable. In losing that world, I found another. The children and families I work with at Riverside Center need advocates and mentors more than this company needs another systems architect. Marcus recovered quickly. "Then I propose an alternative. TechFlow will establish a technology access initiative with the Riverside Center as our flagship partner. We'll provide equipment, curriculum development, and internship pathways. Most importantly, we need a director of community technology outreach to lead this initiative." He extended his hand. "The position is yours if you want it." The atrium erupted in applause. Something remarkable happened to Darius's face. A genuine smile transformed his features, erasing years of careful guardedness. "This," he said, taking Marcus's hand, "is an offer I'd be honored to accept." The transformation began immediately. Darius continued his evening classes at Riverside, now with TechFlow's full corporate backing. Marcus visited regularly, initially to monitor the investment, then increasingly because he found himself drawn to the center's energy and purpose. On one such evening, he arrived to find Darius teaching Maya and a group of children, including his own son, Alex. He hadn't planned this intersection of their personal lives, but watching Alex engaged in learning, his eyes alight with the same passion Marcus had once felt for technology before executive pressures dulled it, he felt something rigid within himself begin to soften. Darius approached as class ended, his demeanor more relaxed in this environment than at TechFlow. Alex has a real aptitude for algorithmic thinking. He solved the pathfinding challenge most adults struggle with. I haven't seen him show much interest in my work before, Marcus admitted, watching his son helping younger children pack up their materials. Perhaps because corporate software lacks spaceships and dragons, Darius suggested, with unexpected humor. I found myself laughing, a genuine sound that surprised them both. Fair point. As weeks passed, the initiative expanded. TechFlow employees began volunteering their expertise. Former center students returned as mentors. Darius's quiet leadership style, so different from Marcus's directive approach, proved remarkably effective at building community engagement. What began as professional respect between CEO and janitor turned director evolved into something more complex. They were both single fathers, wounded by loss, both driven by principles beneath protective shells. In Darius's dedicated care for others, Marcus recognized a strength different from his own ambition, but
After securing continued funding, Marcus found Darius waiting outside the boardroom. "You didn't have to fight so hard for us," he said quietly. "Yes, I did." Their eyes held for a moment longer than professionally necessary. At weekend children's playdates that became dinner at Marcus's suburban home, then lingered into evening conversation after the children fell asleep watching movies, somewhere between discussing curriculum development and sharing stories of single parenthood, personal barriers began dissolving. "Why did you follow me that night?" Darius finally asked. "You could have just fired me for unauthorized computer use." Marcus considered his answer carefully. "Something didn't fit. The careful way you worked. I needed to understand before judging." "A rare quality," Darius observed. "Most people find judgment more convenient than understanding." "I've been on the receiving end of convenient judgments too often to trust them," Marcus admitted. Their conversation continued past midnight, two guarded individuals cautiously recognizing reflection in each other. 6 months after Darius's appointment, the Riverside Center hosted a formal opening of its expanded facilities. The Dr. Darius Freeman Technology Lab plaque had been Marcus's surprise, overriding his protests about recognition. The classroom, once cramped and makeshift, now featured state-of-the-art equipment, comfortable learning spaces, and walls adorned with student projects. More significant were the faces, children from the community alongside TechFlow executives, neighborhood parents beside software engineers, all united in celebrating something built together. As Marcus prepared to address the gathering, he caught sight of Darius kneeling beside a young girl struggling with a coding problem. The patient attention he showed, the same focus whether helping a child or solving million-dollar technical problems, crystallized everything that had changed at TechFlow under their unusual partnership. "When I became CEO, I measured success through market share and profit margins. Important metrics, certainly, but incomplete." He gestured around the room. "True innovation happens when we recognize potential in unexpected places, when we value contribution over credentials, when we understand that talent doesn't always arrive in expected packages." Darius stood quietly at the back, uncomfortable with attention, but visibly moved by the transformed space and opportunities it represented. "When I became CEO," began Marcus's speech, "I measured success through market share and profit margins. Important metrics, certainly, but incomplete." He gestured around the room.
True innovation happens when we recognize potential in unexpected places, when we value contribution over credentials, when we understand that talent doesn't always arrive in expected packages. Darius stood quietly at the back, uncomfortable with attention, but visibly moved by the transformed space and opportunities it represented. This initiative began because one person refused to abandon principles or community, even when it cost him everything professionally. Dr. Freeman reminded us that technology should serve humanity, not the reverse. In doing so, he's helped TechFlow rediscover its purpose beyond profit. The center's first graduates, now TechFlow interns, presented Darius with a handmade plaque. Unlike the corporate recognition, this one read simply, "For the man who saw what we could become before we knew ourselves." Later, as the celebration continued, Marcus found Darius standing alone watching their children playing programming games with other students. "Having second thoughts about refusing that senior architect position?" Marcus asked, joining him. Darius shook his head. "None whatsoever." He nodded toward where Maya was helping Alex debug his game. Some architectures matter more than software. Marcus found himself moving closer, a gesture that would have been unimaginable months earlier. TechFlow was building all the wrong things before you arrived. "You were the one brave enough to change direction," Darius countered. "Perhaps we needed each other to see clearly." "I'm still learning to value what can't be quantified in quarterly reports," Marcus admitted. Darius's smile reached his eyes, a transformation still new enough to seem remarkable. "And I'm learning that sometimes influence can amplify impact rather than corrupt it." As evening fell, families gradually departed until core staff remained. Marcus watched Darius help maintenance workers, his former colleagues, organize the cleanup, still fundamentally the same humble man despite his restored professional standing. Alex approached, interrupting his thoughts. "Dad, can Maya come for another coding sleepover this weekend? Mr. Freeman said it's okay if you agree." Marcus smiled at his son's enthusiasm. "I think that could be arranged." As they prepared to leave, Darius secured the new facility with care born of years protecting what mattered with limited resources. At the entrance, he paused before a newly installed wooden sign bearing the center's expanded name, Riverside Technology and Community Development Center, built for second chances. "Your idea?" he asked, recognizing Marcus's influence. "Some concepts deserve recognition." Their eyes met with shared understanding of second chances, professional and personal. Maya and Alex raced ahead to the parking lot, their friendship uncomplicated by the adult's history. Marcus and Darius followed more slowly, their professional partnership evolving into something neither had sought but both increasingly welcomed. The board approved regional expansion, Marcus mentioned. 5 new centers within 2 years. We'll need someone overseeing the broader initiative. He glanced at Darius. Someone who understands both the technology and the human element. Darius considered this. Ambitious. Necessary, Marcus countered. Technology access remains the greatest predictor of economic mobility. What you've built here deserves multiplication. They reached their cars, parked side by side, his luxury sedan and Darius's practical Honda, both containing children already planning their weekend project. "I'll consider it," Darius promised, "if you'll consider something in return." "Which is?" "Joining us for the Wilderness STEM camping trip next month. The children learn environmental monitoring technology. Parents learn to survive without email for 48 hours. Marcus laughed. The unguarded sound still new between them. Terrifying. "Growth requires discomfort," Darius reminded him, echoing Marcus's own words from a recent strategy meeting. As they prepared to drive their separate ways, for now, Marcus reflected on how completely his understanding had been transformed. 6 months ago, he had followed a janitor suspecting corporate espionage. Tonight, he was following his lead into community impact he'd never imagined for his company or himself. "Marcus," Darius called as he opened his car door. When Marcus turned, his expression held the quiet certainty that had first drawn his attention. Some of the parents are organizing a community dinner next weekend. Nothing formal. You and Alex would be welcome. The invitation hung between them, professional collaboration edging toward personal connection. We'd like that, Marcus answered simply. As they drove away in opposite directions, him to the executive neighborhood, Darius to his modest apartment, Marcus caught a final glimpse of the center in his rearview mirror. The building stood transformed, just like the company, just like their understanding of value and purpose. What began with suspicion had become partnership. What started as corporate initiative was becoming community, and something that had begun as professional respect was becoming... Marcus smiled to himself, comfortable with leaving that particular development unfinished for now. Some architectures needed time to reveal their full design. Behind him, the center's new sign caught the last light of day, built for second chances, for a company, for a community, for two people who had forgotten to trust until cleaning floors and running corporations proved unexpectedly compatible paths to remembering. The story wasn't finished. In many ways, it was just beginning. Would you have made the same choice? Don't share this if you wouldn't risk everything to discover the extraordinary in the ordinary. Sometimes the person you least expect holds the key to everything you never knew you needed.